everybody, welcome back. Welcome to the Shady Nomad podcast. If you haven't joined this podcast or viewed any episodes before, I'm Tamara. I am the host. I have traveled around the world. I also talk about entrepreneurship as well as beauty, and I do single episodes as well as episodes with guests. And today I have a very special guest that I have been knowing for going on 9 years now, and I want to introduce you to him. His name is Gavin, and I want to give you the opportunity to please introduce yourself.
Good to see you again, Tamara, after so many years. Like I said, my name's Gavin. We crossed paths briefly in Vietnam, and I've been living out here for 10 years on a bit of a whim, and here I am today, and hopefully we get to share that journey.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, although Gavin already said it, just want to give you guys like a quick little rundown. So about 10 years ago, just about 10 years ago, I went ahead and decided that I wanted to travel the world. Many of you that have been following me for a while already know that. And how I, took care of myself and supported myself was one of the hustles that I did was I taught English as a foreign language. So although I had started initially in Europe, I eventually moved over to Vietnam. I stayed in Vietnam for about 3 months. 3 months. And I was working for a school system called VUS. And there I met Gavin. So met him. I was like, noticed his accent right away. He probably noticed mine. And I'm like, where are you from? And we just always we crossed paths. I forgot what levels you taught. I kind of taught a variety of levels, so we could talk about that in a second. Yeah. But during my time in Vietnam, he was always really, really dope person to know. Very cool people. And, we always made sure we stayed in touch. So we kind of loosely stayed in touch via Facebook. So I would see what was going on with him. You see what's going on with me. And, now since I'm doing the podcast now, I said, hey, I would love to have you on and talk to us about your journey, especially because you're not from America like I am. So everyone that's watching could get different perspectives from different people from around the world. So again, thank you so much for, joining me today on my episode for this podcast. And let's just go ahead and get started. So although you quickly introduce yourself to the world, I want to go ahead and ask you, what inspired you to start traveling? What inspired the journey that you're on right now?
Well, it actually started back in the late 90s. Pretty much throughout the noughties, because them times there I was living a bit of a different lifestyle. I was making music and DJing, so I was getting paid to travel around the world those times from pretty much 19 onwards. So I was visiting places that you could probably consider a bit off the beaten track as well. You would do the major cities, but then you'd also do these little towns and countryside places, which would just, I don't know, open your mind to what's out there. And then I just end up back in my sort of boring hometown and just think, what the hell just happened? So I always knew there was something out there. I'd saw many different things. I went around America twice. That was probably the most mind blowing of all, to be honest. Still to this day, I'm kind of it's a standout place for sure. So that was what
everyone know where you're from, so they could get a further context of where you're talking about you're coming from and where you visited.
Okay, yeah. So I'm from the centre of England, near Birmingham, a place called Wolverhampton. Born and raised there, mixed parentage, Jamaican father, English mother, and I was caught up in all of the sort of the great music culture that we have out there, and that's what led to me sort of travelling and getting the bug for seeing the world, basically. Yeah. So
you started off playing in, if I'm not mistaken, playing in a band or in music?
It was in clubs, I was DJing basically by myself, Yeah.
Awesome. And then out of that experience, when you were DJing before coming back and kind of pivoting again and getting back out there, what were the places top of mind that I know you said you went around America twice, which is awesome. I didn't know that. But what were what places did you visit that really stuck out to you and will stay with you for the rest of your life, to where it's that was an awesome experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's obvious sort of outliers, which you could say places like Israel. I got to play. It was a bit of a random late call, and I got the call to go to Tel Aviv. And my understanding of the Middle East was just war, you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, where the hell am I going? I thought I was going to Iraq basically, and I was so on edge, just being there. And I think at the time it was relatively peaceful, but that was a standout place for sure. But if you're talking about like places I went consistently, which really caught me, was, as boring as this might sound, was Germany. Germany, for some reason, that got me from day one. So, because again, it was one of those things where, again, we had history with Germany with the war. So whenever I used to speak to like my grandparents or my mother, they'd be like, Germany. We're like, why the hell Germany? But then when I got there, I was like, actually, this is like efficient. Things run nice. It's clean. And again, not what I expected. So it was just not what I expected, basically. And I've loved it ever since. Berlin, come on, So Germany's my standout place. I wish I could have moved there, but there was never really the right opportunity. But that would have been my place to live and work for sure.
So yeah, I've only been to Berlin in Germany, but like I had a great time. I do need to go back and visit throughout the country just a little bit more. I think Germany's always going to be kind of a special place in my immediate family's heart, because like my parents are actually both military vets, and they they were stationed in Germany, met in Germany, married in Germany, lived in Germany. So it's like they went throughout Germany quite a bit. So it's I think Germany, at least for me, because of my parents, it's like, and then I got to go visit a part of Germany myself. I was like, okay, I like Germany a lot.
Wow. Yeah, great. Did they when did they leave there? What years was that? Was that before you were born, or like?
Oh yeah, before I was born.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
They started having us when they came back to the States.
Okay.
So yeah,
well,
like
nice.
This was like in the age of myself, but still, this is like in the early to mid 80s, they came back.
Nice. Damn.
Yeah.
And did that they spoke highly of the place as well, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah, like they went throughout like Europe. They also went through, my dad was stationed in Asia for a bit. I think one of them got to travel just a very little bit in Africa, but I have to confirm that. But my parents, they didn't come from money. So like the international travel they did, it was through serving in the military. Yeah. So, and then that's kind of is what ignited me to want to travel around the world, because since they both had lived abroad and they had experience from abroad, like growing up, I used to always like look at their photo albums and like, tell me this story again. And I already knew it word for word, but they were just like, I'm happy that they at least appeased me. I know I was getting on their last nerve. Like, okay, girl, you could tell this story better than us, but we'll repeat it again. So, so that's what started it. Yeah. So I want to take a quick shift just because, I am from America and you are from the UK. As you know, visiting America, traveling extensively throughout America, it's all still Western civilization, Western society, where capitalism, hustle, 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 bustle, 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 bustle. So like I could attest definitely here in America, like there's a lot of people extremely burnt out. A lot of us don't get vacation time, or we don't get a lot of vacation time. We don't really have a lot of time for like time off. We don't have a national health care system. So, like even just having children or being sick and stuff like that could be very costly if you don't have health insurance. So like a lot of throughout my travels, I'm saying that to say throughout my travels, I met a lot of Westerners from whatever country they came from. But I noticed like more in particular, those that I met from America, it was just like, I'm traveling or I moved abroad because I was tired of the rat race. I was tired of the hamster wheel back home, to where you're just on this never ending spiral. And it's like, I'm killing myself damn near. And what am I getting out of it? Would you say like it's the same in the UK, or is it a bit different? Like, could you just dive a little bit into that? Like how the society works out there?
Yeah, I think again, it just depends on sort of your situation and your context, really. From my own experience, I wouldn't say I was burnt out by England, because I hadn't committed myself to like children or a house or anything like that. So I was still relatively free with my choices. So I could essentially just up and leave if and when I didn't like it. Yes. But for those people that are there, obviously the cost of things there now is is getting crazy. Just being in true British style, you just base it off the cost of a pint, what it costs now compared to a pint of lager or beer, what it cost a few years ago to what it is now, is just, to me, when I go back and visit there now, I always say, I don't know how these guys are doing it, but you know what it's like when you're involved in something, you just make it happen. So they make it happen, but you're starting to see it just look more sterile and feel more sterile out there now. Like, everyone's got the sort of generic middle class car, which they've got on finance. So, like, everyone's got a nice car now, whereas before, you either did or you didn't have. You've got the luxury of the NHS. That's always been like a safety net for us citizens there. However, now you look at if you need an operation, you can be waiting 3 years. Getting to see a doctor, the whole dynamics of that has changed now, where we used to have like a local doctor literally 2 streets away. I don't know what you'd say in America. It's not even a block, but it's just it's on our block. And even lots of those have closed, or you can't even get an appointment for 2 weeks. It never used to be like that for me when I was there, 2015. When I think about that, thinking, well, if I lived back there and I needed to see the doctor or go to hospital, how does that work? I've got to wait 3 months or 3 years for something basic. So it's changing for sure. They're under pressure. And then I think, like, the sort of nature of this topic spills over into other issues that they're seeing there now, because, there's big issues with immigration, and they partly blame that on the way why these resources are less available. So it's a bit of a tricky one, but yeah, it's expensive there, that's for sure. It's expensive. And there just seems to be less and less things for kids to do now, like there was back in the day. We're a little island, a little countryside island, basically. So even though we've got like our ghettos, the ghettos are still surrounded by beautiful countryside, which was accessible. Knife crime is a concern. How it's just so blatant now. You know what I mean? You can see kids having, sword fights in the street, and that plays into people's opinion, I think.
There's, like, of course, always similarities, like, with Western society. So, like, just hearing what you're talking about, living in America is just like, even seeing how things were pre-COVID, now post-COVID. The way that groceries are like sky high, and it's like becoming more and more inaccessible to people. You even think about like how much even something as simple as water has risen in price. And this is like, water should be free for everybody. And like, why are we paying to drink water? And, you have whole cities that have not had access to clean water. And then, of course, a lot of it is concentrated on more urban populations, where it's more Black and brown people that's being impacted, because, of course, the ones that are predominantly Caucasian, they're not necessarily suffering the same way.
Their water's clean.
Yeah, their water is super clean, So it's just like, you do see the inequalities. Like, I think that I can only speak for America, of course, like the inequalities have always been there. People have always called it out. But I think over the years, like, people refer to it as the good old days, but the good old days, they were shutting people up. It was like, oh, they're just crazy. Oh, they're just complaining. Oh, they're lazy. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. But now you can see, like, it's impacting even like the middle class, even coming up to upper middle class. So now, because it's unfortunate, but now because it's impacting people that they see as worthy, now it's like, oh, now we want to talk about it now. But it's like the issues have always been here.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Pretty much similar to UK. I think one of the key differences for you guys is the space that you've got, or the size of your country. So, like,
yes,
I think these issues can be seen clearly because they're isolated. So, like, if you've got like a majority African American city, it's quite clear to see what resources are available or unavailable there. Whereas within England, because it's so small, and you can go from a rich neighbourhood to a poor one. These issues can just sort of disappear. You know what I mean? Be not as clear, because we are literally probably sharing some of the same systems or water pipes. And as the millionaires around the corner. Yeah, there's slight differences for sure.
Okay, so segueing into the next thing, and you kind of started to talk about this, but I cut you off, so apologies for that.
No problem.
What made you decide to move to Vietnam? Like, tell us about like your journey getting to Vietnam.
So I think like before I got here, I obviously had to make a choice, right? It's like, so you don't just go to a country, or most people don't anyway. But for me, it was like, you know, I was getting older. And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have any assets, I didn't have any mortgages or kids or nothing tying me down. So it was kind of like, how long can I keep traveling around the world, DJing, feeling like I'm actually making progress? You know, it was I think I was growing out of that sort of career / hobby, and I needed something a bit more concrete. So, pre-Vietnam, I went to university late, and then got into industry and events. But then 2015, I came to visit a friend who'd just moved to Thailand, just for a holiday, you know, no big deal. He was in Chiang Mai, and I stayed there for about 5 weeks, and I loved it. You know, it was, the things that stood out to Asia for me was the tropical nature of it. I wanted to be drinking coconuts and eating mangoes. It was very primal, almost like that. I wanted this health access, you know. I'd started kind of watching stuff about sort of optimum health, especially for people of colour as well. Yes. And that was a big concern for me. So it was something I wanted to explore. I didn't have any ties to the UK. So I went back home, got my money up, and thought, let me just try something for a few months or a year or something like that. My friend was then trying to get me to go Thailand. But as much as I love Thailand, it felt too far from home. I don't know what it was. It was just like almost too Asian. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like, nah, I can't really get with this. So I went back home into the middle of a cold English winter, and it was overbearing. You know, it was overbearing, just that grim, heavy winter. And I just thought, nah, just at least try it, you know. So I just put all my energy and focus into getting what I need, and did a bit of research, and this is the one that came up. Sounded exciting because, you know, to Vietnam, you guys have got history with them, but we don't have the history with them. So other than a few movies where there's like helicopters flying around and bombs dropping, we didn't know anything about Vietnam the same way you guys did. So I thought, okay, that sounds a bit exciting and a bit risky. Let me check it out. That was the starting point anyway.
So, in a way ironic, because like I didn't go through a similar thing. And first and foremost, as you know, here in America, we're not getting no 5 weeks of holiday. And if you are, like, you a top person, you're lucky even to get like a 4 week, 4 week vacation for the year. So, but for me, what got me over to Vietnam is when I was planning out like where the places I actually wanted to base myself out of per continent. I knew that Thailand was so popular amongst like just everyone. Everyone's like, oh, Thailand, beautiful beaches, cheap, great food, great culture, etc. Like you literally can't go wrong. And then like, especially here in America, we compare the USD to the Thai baht. It's like you could live like a queen or a king. I'd never been to Chiang Mai, although I know Chiang Mai, for those of you that are watching, Chiang Mai is a very, very popular expat. They have a really grand expat community, black expat community in Chiang Mai. Oh, right. It's based out of Thailand. Yeah, so nice. I never had a chance to visit yet, but they said I wanted to do something different. It's like I hadn't been to Thailand yet. I actually went to Thailand right before I moved to Vietnam for the very first time. But I just wanted to do something different. I said, hear a lot of people talk about Vietnam, and you would be surprised. I have to debunk something very fast. You would be surprised. Like, although America has history with Vietnam, there are so many Americans that are very ignorant to our current relations, our past relations with Vietnam. So imagine when I told people back home here, I'm moving to Vietnam. Why on earth would you want to move there? We're at war with them. We are not at war with them. We have not been at war with them in decades. Like, I need y'all to relax. But the thing is, you didn't hear a lot about Vietnam. Like, all you pretty much knew here was that we went to war. We were at war with them at one point. Yeah, so unless you actually had a relative that had fought in the Vietnam War, or you had like Vietnamese heritage, you still didn't really know a lot about the country. So I said, well, let me just try Vietnam and see. And I absolutely loved it. So, okay. So now you decided to get to Vietnam. What made you go into teaching?
So then, I didn't know how long I was going to stay here for. Chose Ho Chi Minh City because of the weather. And obviously, so I had money. I was all right for a few months. So I just got settled in, found a place to live, got a bike, started exploring the place and just getting my bearings. And then obviously, that's the done thing, that's sort of the entry level thing to earn some money. So I thought I'd try it. Again, there was no definites or guarantees that I was going to enjoy it. It was going to work out. It was just a bit of a gamble. Did it, and like yourself, got VUS's, quite low level, like low entry level, should I say. So I just started there, and then I met a good group of friends there, fellow English lads, and we just hit it off really. So I think meeting those guys and sort of hearing their journeys here, even though they hadn't been here that long at the time, but it seemed like years, how long you been here? Like 2 years, like wow. But that seemed like a big deal at the time. But I think it was that connection with like people like myself who were out here and making it happen. And I was like, okay, it's possible. So that was the thing that sort of dialed me in to think, okay, maybe this could be something a bit more longer than I expected, Yeah,
no, I agree. Another thing that attracted me to Vietnam was like, I just already was teaching by the time, I had just started teaching by the time I like said, okay, for sure, I'm going to move to Vietnam. Because at first I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm thinking Vietnam, but we'll see. What made me like definitely lock in with Vietnam is, number one, I love Vietnamese food. I'm from California, so I grew up around a very diverse population of people from different backgrounds. But then the second thing was, I realized like when it came to visas, I realized that, I don't know if it's the same now, you guys, for those of you that are watching, but back then I was able to teach, like legally teach and legally make money without needing a visa right away. Like now the plan was, how they work it out for me, because I had 3 months access to my visa travel visa, tourist visa lasted for 3 months. So they were like, you could teach at the school for 3 months. It's just, please know by the end of your tourist visa, you need to be working towards getting an actual, work visa. And VUS was actually offering to help out with that whole process. But for me, I knew that I was only like, this was just I don't even want to call it a bump in the road, but this was just a pit stop for me, if you will. So I was just like, I'll absolutely stay, and get my work visa, knowing in the back of my head, I'm like, nah, I'm only staying 3 months. This is going to help fund my living here in Vietnam. Save up some money for the next leg of my journey. And then, at the end of the 3 months, they were like, are you going to get your work? Do you want us to start working on your work visa process? And I said, no, I'm actually going to, go ahead and skedaddle on up out of here.
So did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that teaching experience here? Like, did you enjoy that time?
I did. It also, it was interesting though, because I can't speak for you, but it's like, I know that a lot of it made me realize how inexposed, people are. Like, there was a lot of living in Asia, period, but like even just teaching like the young kids at VUS, a lot of them never seen a black person before. So they were like, oh, like, this is a black girl.
Yeah.
This is a black woman. And the thing is like, I think for a lot of people that would be very intimidating, very uncomfortable environment.
For sure.
There were times that I needed to communicate with like the students' parents or their families about something, and you could see that they're not, although I had a translator, of course, you could see that they're not paying attention to a word anybody is saying, because they're just looking at me like, there is a black girl teaching my child, like, what's going on?
It's not what I'm paying for.
Exactly. And it's like, and that's the thing that people don't take into consideration. Like, when I first moved to Vietnam, I actually applied to go work at another school, but I never told anybody this before. I went to audition or do my demo lesson, and I noticed like the people that were supposed to be there, like observing and basically judging on if I could teach and if I'm going to get the position or not, only half of them showed up. It was just pretty much the recruiter and like his assistant. And I'm like, is the other people going to be here? And they were trying to figure out, like, they had me waiting. We're just staring at each other for like 30 minutes because they're trying to figure out how to tell me that they cannot hire me because I'm black.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And when they finally like revealed it, and mind you, I also got paid for the demo lesson, but I was just like, oh, this is absolutely crazy. Like, this is absolutely crazy. But it's like, so you definitely see like the racism and the prejudice there. But one thing I did enjoy about working at VUS is that I know for a fact I was able to reshape a lot of the students that like I taught. And like, I was a lot of my students' favorite teacher. And
you're gonna be. So it works, man.
Yeah, so it's just like, so I pray that as they continue throughout their life, because I'm like thinking about how old they are now. I'm like, oh my God, these are like grown,
young adults, some of them.
Yeah, like they're young adults. But I hope that I was able to help reshape like their mindset when it comes to encountering other people that they don't see all the time, other races of people, ethnicities, etc. So and I feel like I did.
Of course.
When I told them that I was leaving, a lot of students were just like, you are my absolute favorite teacher. Like, I don't want you to leave, and you do become fond of them. Like for me, I love kids. Like, so all of them became my little babies. And, so it's just like, I did have it was a challenge. It was challenging at times to answer your question, but at the same time, I absolutely would do it again. I think it was worth it. And I am really proud that I was able to positively impact a lot of young minds.
Absolutely. Similar situation to yourself when I first got here, and I was like shopping around in all the sort of further out districts, middle of nowhere for your listeners. I had an interview, and the head of the campus, the lady, sits down with me, and she looked at me, and she went, "Oh, this is word for word." She said, "Oh, you're not white," and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'll go with this. And then the second or follow-up point was, "But don't you think the kids will be scared of you?" And I'm just like, wow. And it's that first shock of like, okay, this is a new world. This is a new type of, it's not the deep racism you get back home where it's kind of like they say there's blood in the water, because there's no, give or take some soldiers that were in the Vietnam War, there's no actual blood in the water between black people and Asian people. There's been no Africa versus Vietnam. But that was an eye opener, and it does force you to have to rethink about, your position. Like, okay, how do I fight this battle? I've been battling that all my life back home. How does this one work? Because this one is a bit more, I'm not going to say innocent, but it's definitely more ignorant. You know what I mean? Like, they cannot take the blinkers off. You are not white. How do I get past that? But what I would say is living here a while now, that's changing now. From my opinion anyway. Just again, when I first met you, like I was explaining earlier, that being a person of colour, them times there, whenever I'd see another person of colour, I'm making sure that I reach out to you and let you know that, I'm here as well. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know what you might have been feeling like or thinking. But now you're starting to see like black teachers, brown teachers, teachers wearing turbans, do-rags. It's becoming more of a norm now. It doesn't feel as weird anymore or strange to see. Even when we started back a few weeks ago, there was like a group of brothers in there, and I was like, yes. I was like, look at this, look at these boys. And we were all joking about it, So I think it is changing. It's obviously going to be slow, but yeah, it's changing for sure. And the coloured people, we do make more of an impact. That is for sure. I stand on that one.
Sure,
man. Come on.
But you do see it, and it's just like, and Gavin's absolutely right. Like back when I had first moved there, it was 2016, and then I left like around March 2017. It's like it was not a large population of black folks. Like it was not, and it came to the point like Gavin said, like the moment you saw somebody else, you're like, hey, I see you, come over here, let's go ahead and let's go ahead off to the side and let's compare notes. Okay, so where have you been? Where's the racist places? Where's the da? How do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? Like you're literally exchanging notes, but it's like that's another thing that I love, and I definitely think that this is like embedded in us as like black people. No matter where you're from, it's like we're very communal people. So it's like we don't have issues like exchanging information with each other, and just like, hey, we know we already was a minority back at home, but we're especially a minority here. Yeah. And for those of you who are watching who's never been to Asia, especially Southeast Asia, like you also have to understand the climate. It's just like I can't speak for now because I don't live there now, obviously. But like when I lived back then, it was even just a challenge, like even that exchange. And I'm glad that you said ignorant, because I was struggling with the word. I didn't want to quite call it racism, although it does have a part. Racism does definitely have a part to play, but it's also like it is a lot of people ignorance because they just never been. They've never seen black people. They don't, and all they know is what they've been told through media and through whatever channels of the world that they have access to. But also understand, not only just having to deal with that, but then you're living in countries who want to be white. Like I remember when it came to beauty products and stuff like that. Like, thank God when I first moved, I ended up roommating with a Vietnamese woman, but she is from Paris and she worked for L'Oreal. So she was able to bring me like beauty products because I couldn't get soap. I couldn't get lotion. Everything had bleaching components in it. And I'm like, okay, what happened for the people who don't want to be white? I don't want to lighten my skin tone. I don't want to be white. I'm perfectly fine being black. Like I love being black. And it's like, even when it comes down to that, it's just like, and you're realizing, I had what actually started my blog back in the day, Love Rocher's, was actually teaching in Vietnam, like teaching young kids. I had a young girl come up to me. She was one of my favorite students, and she's like, teacher, she's like, your skin is darker. I say, yes, I'm black. And she's like, yes, you're black. And then she's like, and me, I'm white. And I'm like, no, you're a pretty little Vietnamese girl. And you would have swore I knocked the living wind out of her, because she was just like, wait, I'm not white? No.
Yeah. No, because that's what she's been told, probably. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's interesting, that's for sure. It's you can, like you say, in our native countries, you can experience, and we grow up with racism, but that bit of innocent ignorance, whatever words I'm creating here, but it's a different, unique experience as a person of color. It's mad. I wouldn't say there's times where it's a bit more impactful, but then I think overall, when you sort of step back and look at it, you're kind of like, okay, I can see why this is the way it is, and the good thing is, besides of that, there's no sort of physical threat to your livelihood because of those views, so I'll take that as well. I'm not gonna get damaged because of my skin color.
Yeah, that was a big thing too, because it's like, that was one of the things that I had to like quickly realize as I was traveling the world is like, oh, you know, growing up in America and like American media is always like, we're the greatest country in the world. This is what American media says. I'm not saying, you know, I'm just saying what I heard. Okay.
I'm saying what they said.
I'm saying what they said, man.
Yeah.
But they like those, that's what's ingrained in you growing up here in America. It's like America's the greatest country in the world, and they make the rest of the world look, with the exception of like other white leading countries, European countries more specifically, they make the rest of the world look so violent, so just primal. And when you live overseas, especially like, for example, Vietnam, like I'm literally arguing with people back home because they're like, why would you move to such a violent country? And they do this and they do that. And I'm like, we have people doing mass shooting here on a weekly basis, where if you even have a gun out here, they're looking at you like you are crazy, because it's like, do you need help? Why are you out here with the gun? Where out here you won't even blink twice, because it's like, you better have a gun. So it's just like, you know, just debunking things that have been ingrained, to where like a lot of Westerners, but more specifically Americans I could speak to, a lot of them are still very fearful to travel around the world, because that's the number one misconception. Like, all these places are so violent. And don't get it wrong, some of these countries are violent. Some of these countries are going to give it to you live. But one of the most, if not the most violent country in the world. You know, so I'm like,
that just when I went to America, I was just on edge, knowing that there's guns there. That was a constant thing for me. Just like stopping off on some, I think I flew into like Sacramento airport, and then we drove down. And I've been traveling like hours. I was a bit disorientated, and we stopped off at some like, you know, gas station, and I walked in, and it was just like being in a movie. Like there's some like guy there with some lumberjack thing on, just staring at me behind the counter. I'm like, this guy's probably got a piece under that desk, just waiting for me to make a wrong move. And I could never get over that. It was a genuine thing for me, that was, until I got to like, I don't know, New York. I felt a bit more safer in New York for some weird reason, because it seems a bit more, I don't want to say civilized, but you know, it's not lumberjacks and bloody chewing tobacco.
Yeah,
but in contrast,
it's more just like to the point.
But in like a contrast to Vietnam, like you've probably got more likely a chance of getting hit by like a plastic chair or a motorbike than you have a bullet or a knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the biggest crime that I had to watch out for while living in Vietnam was just like making sure nobody snatched my phone, like ride by on a motorbike and snatch my phone out my hand, you know, but that was about it. Like there was a few times though where I had a couple people try me, and then I had to like they were like, oh yeah, okay, not her. Let them know. Let's keep it moving.
You know? Exactly.
But for the most part, not like how it is here.
No, a lot of the when I think about most of the issues I've had or friends have, it's from other foreigners. You know, more than anything. You know, especially there's for your listeners that don't know, there's a decent sized expat community here, and a lot of them, you know, tend to feel safe to express views. So politics is always on the table, usually of the right variety. And I'm not really political like that, but it usually leans that way. And some of them cross over and feel too comfortable to express their views about, you know, people of colour, and forgetting that they're now residing in a country with people of colour. So you can get into some heated discussions, and some people get physical with foreigners. Way more chance than you would with a Vietnamese person, you know. Yeah,
it's always the foreigners most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, when it's big foolishness, is normally a foreigner is involved.
Yeah. Just okay, whatever, you know.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and move forward. So, wanting to talk about entrepreneurship very quickly. So I remember, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say some years ago, I believe you had started a business. Could you tell us about that and let us know how that's going?
So there's a few things we've done out here. So my friend who was living out here with me at the time, again, another English Jamaican fellow called Matt, me and him just like, we were just going crazy with ideas when we first got here. Them times I didn't have a daughter, we were both earning salary, and we were just like, let's do things. So the first idea we had was to grow chilies, but Jamaican chilies and some rare Mexican varieties. So we were dabbling in with that, and we were, importing special growing nets from China and renting land in Coochie and stuff. And it was a good experience while it lasted. But one of the sort of common pitfalls that we hit with that was getting the support, or the consistent, reliable support of local staff, because we were working full-time day jobs and then driving out to Coochie. For your listeners, that's like a 45, 50-minute drive every day in our work clothes, shirt and tie and shoes. So we employed some staff to take care of it, because obviously it's the tropics. There's bugs, there's water issues. You need to make sure the plants are getting what they need, all this stuff. And we were turning up and the guy just hadn't done anything. So we were just losing large amounts of our crop, basically. So that was just, if I did it now, I'd know exactly what to do differently. But at the time, it was just like, it was frustrating. And you tend to see that that's a common problem that sort of foreign entrepreneurs have here, is getting the staff to understand like what their requirements are. You know what I mean? Forget what you know, but what are my requirements? Can you understand them and translate them into action, basically? So yeah, we did that. Anything you want to ask about that there before I continue?
All I'm going to say is just a quick tidbit. Let me tell y'all something. The few months I was out in Vietnam, when I would see Gavin outside of work, this man was hustling. He was like, "Oh, I'm looking to get into this, that," because he was always like very entrepreneurial spirited. Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, he is not playing." I said, "He better set up his empire." But no, I think that's dope. I didn't even realize that you were like going out there towards Coochie. So for those of you who don't know, who have never been to Vietnam, ever were to come to Vietnam, more specifically Ho Chi Minh City, and you wanted to do an excursion, they'll say, "Oh, you could go out to Coochie." So what's infamous out in Coochie is the Coochie tunnels. And that's where when America and Vietnam were at war with each other, they developed I guess you could say a system. But you'll go out there. Yeah, underground. You could go out there. There's like a museum, if I'm not mistaken. I've only been once, but you could there's a museum. They play footage of like documentary footage, all that stuff. You have an opportunity to go inside the tunnels, but it's definitely considered rural. It's not a city life. It's not a city aesthetic. It's very, very much rural. So that's why, just to give you guys some reference, like he's talking about a rural area of Vietnam. Yeah.
And it still is rural, even though it's like one of the most famous tourist hotspots. It hasn't been like overdeveloped, and it skews more towards the Victor's version of events, if you will.
Yes.
So yeah, we did that, and then it was like, okay, this is just too much. And sort of overlapping that, we'd also decided to start a small little, I wouldn't call it a restaurant, but a restaurant of sorts. And so we were doing that as well. So now we've got our day jobs, and the bonus of that was that when we wasn't teaching, we could leave. So it's like, right, your turn to go to the farm, my turn to go to the farm. Or you go farm, I'll go and set up the barbecue. So we were doing these two things at once. So eventually we decided to cut off the farm. It just, it didn't make sense, and we couldn't see it sustaining, to be honest. And we focused on the restaurant, and that was whilst it lasted, it was a good experience until, COVID, like most things, just finished us off. So, we developed this little Jamaican spot in the real local neighborhood. And I'm talking real local, not District 2, if you remember, not District 7, like local. and it was a good vibe. Yeah, we'd get Vietnamese people in there. You get people from America, New York, Toronto, Jamaicans coming in. It was like, okay.
Was if I was still out there, I would have been there on a regular basis. Like I was missing Caribbean food like crazy.
Yeah, and it was interesting because it really drawed some people out, which I didn't know was here. So it's like, what do you do here? There was like one. There was one, like, I think he was half Chinese, half Jamaican guy, quite old actually, in his 60s. He just used to come down. I said, what do you do out here? Because he's obviously retirement age. And he'd be like, yeah, man, we just come chill with brethren. We know everybody around you. And I'm just like, where have you come from? And he used to just come and chill like a, typical like, older Jamaican man, just come and hang out all day, you know what I mean, and just chat. And it was just fascinating, the sort of people that, like I say, drawed out of the community, which you would never have known about otherwise. COVID killed us with that, basically. That was a no-brainer.
Sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
It was exhausting.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, what, you kind of did talk about the challenges. So I guess my next question is, like, what advice would you have for anybody like interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, like whether it's like running a restaurant, farming, or just overall, like I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, when you look back at it, what are the biggest lessons you've learned that you're like, okay, if I ever decided to do this again, or even just go back into entrepreneurship, this is what I would do?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like just sort of my sort of entrepreneurial journey, you could say, started with the music thing, because that was fully independent. You had to be in control of everything, and then eventually running a record label, selling records all around the world, arranging your itineraries when you're traveling and stuff. So I consider that sort of my foundation, in terms of knowing that I can build something from idea to reality. But I think as I've sort of ventured away from that sort of childhood passion into more normal areas, you could say like restaurants and stuff, I think it's being persistent is the thing. And that's an issue I definitely have with ideas. I've got too many things, and, that particular date's amazing, and then your attention can wane. And that's been a weakness for me forever. And I admire people that have got that just solid focus on one idea and seeing it through, because I had that with music, and it's now, how do I take that framework I had and put it into other areas, to keep that motivation going when the seasons changed, so to speak. So yeah, it's just that's my main takeaway. Just, you've got to somehow find that thing that sticks you to it. Remember why you started this, because that's a battle for me, that is, personally. How about yourself?
I'm still in like the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey. In many ways, I have done like forms of entrepreneurship in the past. Like although I don't freelance as a makeup artist anymore, but I've done makeup artist freelancing for a long time. And then there was like other passions of mine. I think you and I are kind of similar when it comes to, it sounds like you're multi-passionate. Like I definitely am. I'm passionate about a lot of things. My biggest loves, I would say, would definitely be travel and beauty. So like I just launched a business around travel. I actually did not launch a business, but I started a business back in 2020 surrounding beauty that I just kind of put a pin on it at the time. But also too, like you said, staying consistent and just like always understanding that you're always going to have to find a balance. Like just when you think you got it figured out, something else like will throw you another curveball, or something will come out of nowhere, and then like you have to find a way to balance that as well. So it's when I started like my beauty business back in 2020, I haven't launched it yet, but I have a dog now. I didn't have a dog, I just had my full time, but then I also was COVID. So I got to work from home, and I had a whole lot more time to manage my personal time, to where it's like, okay, this is the time for work and this is the time for the business. But now, since things have resumed to a post-COVID world, where I got to go back in the office again, although it's not every day, but I still have to go back into the office again. Now I have added responsibilities. I do have a dog. Family members are getting older, adding added responsibilities, etc., it is very easy to get distracted. It is very easy to get overwhelmed. It is very easy to kind of, you'll find yourself putting a pin on your dreams for a second, and then like you'll tell yourself it's for a second, and then it lasts way longer than that break lasts way longer than you intended. So it's just always a balancing act. And like you said, like you gave pretty much the best advice. Like, remember your why. Remember your why, because there's times you're going to fall even out of love with your business. You might say there's times there you meet entrepreneurs and they're like, things are going well right now, but I absolutely hate this shit right now, because they're just overwhelmed, or it's just life is lifing. But you have to just continue to remember your why, and your why will help you stay in the game.
And it's just like, I feel like now as well, there's so much of this sort of like on the online messages of just like, you should be doing this every day, and I think people sort of relying on these motivational quotes and things can sometimes not be applicable to your situation. Like, go hard every day. It's like, I hear that, but there is times where you've got to balance it a bit as well. And I think what it is the message about being successful is it seems unobtainable. That's the way I see it. Whereas you focus on yourself, what you're doing, your journey, your pace, your timing. That's it. I think.
That's another thing too. It's just like, you have your big goal, and then but don't forget the small goals too, because a lot of times we'll get wrapped up into, well, we didn't obtain our big goal yet, but look at all the other things that you wanted and you were able to obtain, and you're building it up. So for me, it's just reminding myself that, and for my advice for others is remembering that, and this is me also reminding myself and taking my own advice, everything is building blocks. It's like, because social media and, you're watching what people decide to put their B-roll, the B-roll that they want to show. They're showing you like, okay, these are the end results of everything. Like, I'm living on top of the world. I got all this money. I'm financially free, blah, 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 blah. But that took, for most people, unless you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth or nepotism or whatever, that stuff takes time. That stuff really takes time. And, they're not also, and just also remember, people are not going to be as quick to show you. They'll show you their strong months, but they're not going to be as quick to show you those slow months, to where it's like, hey, I'm not really making a lot of money. Hey, I don't know how I'm going to pay my staff, or how I'm going to pay myself, or whatever. I don't know. We're going to make it, to the next month. Or something might take off, and it's like, okay, cool, I could float for 3 extra months, cool. And then, you might end up hitting another rough patch. So when it comes to that, just remembering, I would say my biggest piece of advice is remember your why, and just remember it's building blocks. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. No, more than likely your business is not going to be built in a day either, but it's really the journey along the way, and those lessons that you're learning as you're going up and down those building blocks, that is going to make sure once you get the success that you want, you can maintain it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was having a conversation the other day, actually, kind of like business, but just life progress. And there's moments I've had in my life where I realized that any little thing I was doing, whether it was learning a skill or just an interesting something, watching, reading, or anything like that, anything that involved consuming information, was never actually wasted, because it's usually always come back to serve me in another way at some point. Not necessarily that specific topic, but just the mental process I went through when I was, dealing with that. So I feel like, just if something does come along, explore it, see if it's for you or not. And if it isn't, don't be afraid to put it down. But it's not wasted. So just sometimes just go with your instincts, even if it does need a bit of a slight detour. Like, okay, what's this? No, not for me. Back on track. Because I think there's still value in all of that.
And you could even especially apply that for even traveling. So just moving it back to traveling just for a quick moment. A lot of people don't realize, especially for me, it took me a while to realize, like, hey, I traveled around this world, and I was able to manage my finances, where I was going to go, the logistics of everything, the planning, the budgeting, the vision, everything.
Yeah.
And, that takes a lot of grit. That takes a lot of trial and error. Like, there's things like you might end up in a place where you thought you were absolutely going to love, and then you get there and you're like, oh, I don't like this place at all. That's happened to me before. And just being able to pivot. So, and then even like the challenges that we talked about, some of the challenges like moving to, another country where they're not used to seeing, your people from your background and similar backgrounds, etc. So let's talk about that real fast. Going back into traveling, because I do feel like I understand traveling and entrepreneurship is not the same, but there's a lot of similarities. Have you faced any challenges during any of your travels, whether when you were DJing, moving to Vietnam, whatever it is that you were doing? Have you faced any challenges? And if so, what have you learned from it that you could offer advice for others as they're starting their journey?
Good question, actually, that is. Was just starting with the present. Challenges, I think it's, in terms of like the legalities, it's been quite straightforward, work, get a visa, so that if you play the game right here, or whatever country you move to, just be legal, basically, then you're okay. But I think the more sort of psychological challenges of it is, where do I fit in now? Because you've left home and you like it in the new place that you're in, but it's still not home. It's still not home. Doesn't mean England's home anymore, but this isn't home as well, but I like it here. So you can get into these places where, I think there's actually studies on this, and there's actually a timeline of like the progress of when you live somewhere or travel somewhere. But you can sort of reach this middle of the road where you don't know whether you are coming or going, kind of thing. That's been a challenge for me as the longer I've been here, I would say. Obviously I've got a daughter, and I am genuinely happy here, and I intend to stay here, but that still does not take away from the thoughts that you can have, and you could probably call them doubts. That's probably what you could call them. You build all of this stuff, you build a job, you build a career, you build a family, but you still have doubts about whether you're in the right place or not. So that's more of a psychological challenge I can have now. Other challenges, I don't know. I think because I was young at the time, and just the nature of DJing was just our version of rock and roll. I embraced it all. I embraced all of it, really. I think the scariest thing for me, or the most challenging time for me, was probably after 9/11. And then, like, all that whole terrorist period, it was just being a brown-skinned person like me. You was getting pulled up at airports left, right, and centre. That used to put me off travelling those times. So I would have a booking, like, say, in Switzerland or somewhere, and I can't face that. I can't face that again, because at the time the climate was really, it was really hot, and I was using it. I was using airports, for fun those times. So I didn't enjoy that time, but sort of everything else around that was enjoyable, crazy. But again, to summarize, just ignore the doubts. Remember, again, I think it all goes back to this thing. Remember why you're doing it, or why you left, or why you're here. What can I say? There you go. Remember why.
I mean, like, it's honest. For me, I would say one of the things that I've learned, or the advice that I would give people, is piggybacking off of what you said, is things change. And like, as much as we like to say, oh, we are adaptable to change, most of us aren't. We're very resistant to change. You think you are, till you got to change, Yeah. So it's just understanding. You could be as open-minded as you want. You could be as excited as you want about things. But, the fact of the matter is, you're not in your home country. In your home country, you are used to being, you were raised to, be and act a certain way, like in that society for that particular country. So, and when you're traveling outside of that, you're experiencing new countries, new norms that they're new norms for you, but these are norms for wherever your established norms for wherever country you're visiting. Also, too, just understanding that, especially as a person of color, like there's a lot of people that have never seen you before. Never seen you before. And they already have, unfortunately, misconceptions and preconceived notions about you because of what they have been taught, told, ingrained in their mind, etc. So you do feel like an outsider at times. You are in many ways kind of an outsider, but it's that fact of there's always going to be changes of environment. The more places you travel to, the more places that you live or visit, etc. But then also understand that you're changing as well. Like your perspective is changing, your insight and the way that you think about things. There might be ignorant nuances or ignorant thoughts that you might have had that is now debunked because you've actually experienced or seen for yourself that stuff is not true. And also too, is kind of like what you said about like your although you might be very happy being in a new place, you know, it's not quite home. And then also understanding that home lies within you, but that also changes as well. Like whatever, it's not, as you continue to grow, like home will, your conception of home will change as well. So, you know, and those, that could be very scary for a lot of people. And it also could cause a lot of people to go into depression. You do get homesick.
That's what's happening out here.
You could be somewhere for years. You could be somewhere for years and still be homesick. You know, so it's like, there's so many different changes, but the best way to understand, I'm watching this dog about to fall off. Please move. I'm just watching him, like I keep looking over because I keep seeing him and he's about to fall but he just moved. Thank you. Okay, my heart.
Can I just grab a quick glass of water?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 1 second.
Absolutely. And while you do that, I'll keep talking. But what you realize is that overall, the change is inevitable.
Okay, continue.
It's going to happen. It's okay. I still was talking while you was grabbing your water. The change is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just always reminding yourself to be open to it. You know, be open to it because your experience really comes down to what you're willing to accept and not accept. And if you're so stuck on being adamant on the straight and narrow and it's like, I only see what I see, I only want what I want, then your experience is not going to be great. Your life experience isn't going to be great because you're not opening yourself up to be able to experience and go through those motions and let yourself change in the process.
Yeah. It's for sure. It's a complete experience. So like for me personally, the reason why I think I can sustain and get through it when those vibes are happening is because of like my beliefs. My beliefs in God. You know what I mean? I know where, like you say, it's within me. Do you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. This is the label's Vietnam, but this is still God's green earth as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to navigate that. I know where I am. I'm not lost. So it's that helps me. You know what I'm saying? That's what keeps me centered. That's what helps me. There's a lot of people out here who don't have something similar for themselves. So you see a lot of people out here turn to the bottle, turn to drugs quite easily. You know, so yeah, you do have to be careful because if you don't have a purpose out here or some kind of grounding, I've seen it chew people up as well. You know, there's people losing their minds out here. There is, you know, that's a reality. You know, so you know, do just have a purpose basically. And if it's not working and you've got the purpose, I'd probably say leave for a bit, reassess your situation, get some balance, and then go again if you need to.
And that's one of the greatest pieces of advice. Like, you could always start again. You could always put a pin in it, revisit it another time. You could also put a pin in it and decide, hey, you know, this is a past version of me that I don't no longer want to revisit. So I think that is great. We're going to wrap up. Before we do, though, I want to see if you had any other words for the watchers, for the viewers, etc. Any last piece of advice or any last parting words?
Yes. You know, there's a lot of noise happening in the world for all of us.
Yes.
But it's just an experience. a temporary one at that. So just enjoy, love, and that's it. You know, simple. It's not. It's all noise. It's all noise. Simple. It's all noise. Yeah. Thank you to your listeners. Thank you, Tamara, for having me. It's been lovely to see you after such a long time. And you know, I wish you all the best success.
Do you have any? Thank you. Do you have any socials that you would like to share for the viewers if they want to follow you?
I think for me, LinkedIn's probably the one you want to get me on. I'm not really. I don't. So LinkedIn is just. Yeah.
I'll get your LinkedIn and then I'll plug it in the description. All right, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Gavin. We have not spoken physically in a long time, but it's great to see you. Great to see that you're doing well, and I continue to pray that you continue to do well. And thank you for joining us. And then before I go ahead and log off, let me just quickly say my spiel. For those of you who have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you want, please follow me on social media. I could be found across all platforms. TikTok, Instagram are the most active on Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube at the handle Lover of Shades, all one word. I will also put that in the description box below. I will, of course, get Gavin's LinkedIn and then put that in the description box below if you would like to connect with him. But in the meantime, I hope you guys stay blessed, stay shady, and we'll speak next time. Bye.